Good evening, and welcome to the College of Education's Distinguished Alumni Awards program. My name is Damon Andrew, and I serve as the Dean of the College of Education. I am honored to present this program tonight and welcome back the newest class of distinguished alumni to the College of Education. These 8 awardees have distinguished themselves in a variety of careers, but all have applied what they have learned at the College of Education to make the world a better place. They have been selected by a committee of distinguished alumni, retired faculty, and current staff members from among 42 nominations. I would like to thank Dr. Mary Coburn, Ms. Leslie Milley, Dean Emerita Marcy Driscoll, Ms. Ashley Milton, and Ms. Amanda Kaufman for their service on the Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee. When our graduates walk across the virtual stage this December, our total alumni population will pass 60,000 College of Education graduates working across the world to elevate their chosen professions. The wide array of Distinguished Alumni Award categories illustrate that graduates of a College of Education are not always teachers, professors, or higher education administrators, but that they may apply what they have learned in any manner of field, such as business and industry, sport, or government and community service. Tonight, we will award 2 Trailblazers, alumni of the last 10 years who have made a strong impact on their field, 5 distinguished alumni whose career success has earned them recognition from their peers, and for only the second time in the 36-year history of the Distinguished Alumni Awards program, we will close the evening with the Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations to our distinguished alumni. I will now turn over the introduction of our recipients to our Assistant Dean for Development, Kevin Derryberry.
Established in 2018, the Trailblazer Award recognizes graduates of the last 10 years who have made a significant impact on their profession, contributed to their community, and who show promise of continued success. The first 2020 Distinguished Alumnus Trailblazer is Abria Harris. Abria is a native of Gadsden County, Florida, who always knew his path would lead to education. He graduated from East Gadsden High School and earned his associate's degree from Tallahassee Community College and a bachelor's in math education through the FSU Teach program in 2013.
Fortunately, when I began my educational career at Florida State, majoring in education was the option as well, because of the fact that I had some great educators along the way. And with that, I just always felt like I wanted to give back to my community because I saw the potential here in the Gadsden County area wherein we needed some more positive male role models in the classrooms to support what our young men and young ladies within our communities needed to see. So yes, education has always been that go-to for me.
In his first 2 years teaching, Abria was named Rookie Teacher of the Year, as well as the Gadsden County Teacher of the Year. He also received the Governor's Shine Award and the Florida High Impact Award, as well as the Gadsden County Person of the Year Award. His incredible success has led him to take on a leadership role as the District Math Specialist for Gadsden County.
Being a leader, you have to be willing to cultivate others to accomplish some goal. And that goes back to being a leader in education. Educational leaders must kind of rally the troops to educate the students we're teaching, because of the fact that teachers are faced with so much these days, especially with this COVID-19 pandemic, with the needs to meet all of the individual needs of students. Teachers can become burnt out very easily. Thus, you will need somebody that is supportive, someone that understands, and I value my time in the classroom. Serving in this capacity, sometimes I forget I'm a district level official now, but at the same time, I have to say, okay, I was a teacher. I understand where you come from. So yeah, a leader isn't always the one out front making all of the decisions. It's bringing the people together to work together and as a cohesive, unit to accomplish a goal.
Abria sees himself as a leader and someone who is making a change in his community. He is working towards his doctorate in education from Nova Southeastern and is committed to staying in Gadsden County.
However, I would really love to get in and start, changing cultures. Because many times individuals come to me and say, Abria, why are you still working in education? Abria, why are you still there? Abria, why are you doing this? But then it takes someone to stay in those not so pleasant situations to make a difference. And that's one of my driving forces of making a difference and cultivating change in my own community. And oftentimes you don't always have to be that person in front, as I said earlier. You don't always have to be that person in front to make change. You can be that person behind the scenes pushing others to make some difference. So as far as my career goes, I would love to become a principal one day. I may even return to the district level and lead in some other capacity. However, wherever God leads, I'll be ready to go.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, we proudly present Trailblazer, Abria Harris.
Good evening to the president of this prestigious university, Dr. John Thrasher, to the Dean of the College of Education, Dean Andrew, to the Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee, and to each of you in your appropriate places. It is my honor to humbly accept the 2020 Trailblazer Award. The committee could have easily selected any other individual to bear the title of a trailblazer, but for this, I am extremely humbled. The special thanks to Dr. Robin Smith, Dr. Sherry Sutherland, Dr. Ellen Granger, and to the entire faculty and staff of the FSU Teach program for the nomination. This group of individuals played a pivotal role in cultivating me as an educator during my time at the Florida State University. Under master teachers Cindy Dyer, Logan Chalfant, Malin Kelso, and Dr. Karen Rose, we delved deep in the pedagogy of teaching and learning with a high emphasis on student-centered instruction. This group of teachers focus on shaping well-rounded educators that focus not only on providing high-quality instruction, but making sure it was equitable for all learners. And for this experience, I wholeheartedly say thank you. In addition, I must take time to thank God for who He is the center of who I am. And without Him, I would be nothing. And I thank Him for blessing me with the love of family. I dedicate this award in memory of my parents, Johnny C. Harris and Marilyn Harris. They instilled within me a strong work ethic and a love for people. They always taught me that in everything you do, give it all you got and do your very best. I am forever indebted to them for their love, support, and guidance through many of life's obstacles. However, I believe if they were here today, they would be very proud of this accomplishment. But although they are no longer with me, I still have a strong support system in my sister Lakeisha, my niece, aunts, uncles, cousins, my St. Thomas Church family, my fraternity brothers, and the Gaston County community at large. And to each of you, I say thank you. During my short time in education, I have received many awards and obtained many accomplishments. However, this one holds a different meaning. When you look up the word trailblazer in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, two definitions will appear. The first one simply stated, a pioneer. The second definition states, one that blazes a trail to guide others. Considering the various issues that plague our communities across this nation, we are in dire need of true trailblazers. I've shared with a group of teachers a couple of months ago that during this COVID-19 pandemic, all educators have an opportunity to explore their creativity. Each and every educator is traveling uncharted territory. In addition to this pandemic, educators are yet faced with the difficult task of meeting the needs of the students for which they are teaching, whether it's brick and mortar or virtual. So every educator, in my opinion, is a trailblazer. So this award is befitting, and it lets me know that I'm blazing the trail for others, especially educators, while assisting in creating a bright future for the children I come in contact with. In closing, I'm reminded of my favorite scripture, 1 Corinthians 2:9, and it only affirms that the best is yet to come. There's yet room for each of us to learn and grow. We all have our share of imperfections and hurdles that seem to block our view of our goals we wish to accomplish. But to my educator friends, each of you know you are imperfectly perfect for some individual, and you do have a purpose within your community. With this in mind, I say thank you again, and may God richly bless each of you, is my prayer.
The 2020 Distinguished Alumna Trailblazer, is Dr. Emilia Parnell. Emilia grew up in Lake City, Florida, and earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in business administration from Florida A&M University. She originally planned to enter the world of corporate America, but after taking a job on campus as an internal auditor, she quickly found herself interested in the business of higher education.
The long, windy road of my education then took me to a university where I ended up working. And so I had a colleague who shared an office with me. And if you've ever seen that show, Home Improvement, we had a bookshelf that separated our two workspaces, much like Tim Allen had the fence between him and his neighbor. And at every juncture, at least once per week, I would come and sit at my desk and I would talk to my colleague on the other side of that bookshelf. And I would ask all kinds of questions about the university. Why are they doing this? Why are they not doing that? Who works here and who works there? And why isn't this person talking to that person? My formal role at that time was internal auditor. So I was supposed to ask these kind of questions. So I think we probably had gone back and forth at least for like 6 months. And he said, you know that there is a major called higher ed administration? I said, what? And he said, there's a major called higher ed administration. You should look into it. And I said, why? He said, you are annoying me. Every day you come over here, you ask me all these questions. You sound like a researcher. Have you ever thought about maybe going to get a PhD in higher ed administration? We need you. We need you to do this in a more formal way.
Emilia deepened her understanding of education, first as an education policy analyst for the Florida legislature, then through her PhD in higher education administration at FSU in 2010. In her current role as Vice President for Research and Policy at the Student Affairs Administrators in Higher Education organization, NASPA, Emilia has honed her ability to analyze and simplify complicated concepts. Her first book, You Are a Data Person, exemplifies her drive to communicate that message to her audience.
The prompting of the book came because after working at the Association for Institutional Research for a while and then moving to NASPA, I would really hype up like, hey, this is a really great thing to be doing if you're in student affairs. Try to pull some data-informed decisions into your conversations. And so after I kind of convince people to do that, they always say, Emilia, that sounds really good, but honestly, insert name of person, that's our data person. Ashley's our data person. Bob is our data person. I'm not a data person. And I found myself always saying, but you are a data person. Let me tell you the reasons why. And so the book came about after years of talking to people. I thought I wanted to create something that would explain that we all have a data identity, but I wanted to explain what those parts of the data identity are. And it's not just research and analysis. Some of it relates to communication and strategic thinking. And so the goal of the book is that by the time you finish reading it, the person would say, actually, I am a data person.
As part of her approach, Emilia uses a sense of humor to build relationships and drive communication regarding difficult or complicated issues.
Talking about issues in student affairs like mental health or sexual violence, those things are really difficult topics. And so it's not to make light of those topics, but it's to really get people to let their guard down and talk more candidly about the issues that are really plaguing students right now. And so it's a finesse. I'm starting to learn it, and it's been working for me, and I really enjoy it. At the end of the day, I try to think that I've never met a stranger. And so I feel like I can talk to anybody. And once we start talking about higher ed, I usually find a connection or two. So explaining things in a way that's palatable and relatable just seems to work for me. And I certainly appreciate it.
Emilia looks forward to continuing her work at the national level, but also values communicating directly with students entering post-secondary education. In 2020, she began a podcast to help students with the nuances of college life and hopes to see it flourish.
Speaking of College is the name of the podcast, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And each episode will focus on some aspect of college. So episode 1 is literally called Speaking of College Costs. And so the next one will be Speaking of College Majors. I even have one related to speaking of college professors and the things that students should know if they want to engage with their professor for office hours and things like that. So the goal is to get expert advice. So basically reliable answers to college-related questions. And I'm already having a lot of fun with it.
On behalf of Dean Damon Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, I present Trailblazer, Dr. Emilia Parnell.
Hello, I'm Emilia Parnell, and I am so honored to be a recipient of the 2020 FSU College of Education Trailblazer Award. I wanted to frame my remarks from the perspective of what it means to be a trailblazer. So I searched for a definition of the word, and I found 2. The first is a person who makes a new track through wild country, and the second is a pioneer or innovator. From my vantage point, higher education in the United States today can seem at times a bit wild. Campus budgets are shifting, and colleges are delivering programs, services, and instruction in new ways, and we don't really have a blueprint for what to do. But that leaves so much room for innovation. I've been given a tremendous set of opportunities to share the role of trailblazer, and I'd like to use my acceptance speech to thank some of the people who've supported me along the way in my various endeavors. I first want to thank God and then my family. My parents, Samuel and Marjustine Parnell, and my sister and brother in law, Robert and Amanda Hunter. You all have supported every dream I've had, and you've celebrated every one of my accomplishments. You are my biggest cheerleaders, and I love you very, very much. I next want to thank the selection committee for choosing me for this honor. As I hold up this award, I know the weight of responsibility that's connected to it, specifically my promise to continue representing the FSU College of Education well, and I will do my best. Next, I have to thank Kathy Guthrie. You are an excellent example of how to maintain a connection to professional organizations and build a portfolio that extends far wider than just one institution. I admire your scholarship, your collegiality, and most of all, your willingness to put your connections out there to help others. You did that for me, and I share this accomplishment with you. I appreciate you, and I thank you very much. To Bob Schwartz, my mentor and the person I've consulted for advice about every major career decision to date, your perspective is simply invaluable to me. Every time I've had to make a career decision, the process seems easier because I have your counsel. I hope that I can one day have the kind of impact on someone else's career that you continue to have on mine. Kevin Kruger, it's hard to imagine my career before you. When I moved to DC from Florida, I immediately noticed that things in DC just move faster. And as I found my stride, you were the perfect coach. Now that I have my footing, the pace is fun, and I'm happy to tackle the wild higher education terrain with you. I will continue to work hard to be a great colleague with you. Speaking of colleagues, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Amy Prieto, Robin Ellis, Jason Lewis, Amy Shopcorn, Stephanie Gordon, Omari Burnside, and Tiffany Cochran. You all regularly give me the energy and excitement and entrepreneurial vibes that I rely on so much to be innovative. You know, I always have a new idea, and I appreciate all of our brainstorming conversations and discussions about the future of higher education. Last but not least, I want to thank every class of students that I've ever taught or visited. You give me the inspiration to believe that college is still worth the investment. And I pray that my work leaves a path for you to follow and that you too will be encouraged to pursue your biggest dreams. So now, as I think more about what it means to be a trailblazer, I've decided that I need to add a third definition, my own. To me, a trailblazer is someone who values the wild journey of life and is wise enough to recognize that in order to truly do new and innovative things, one must seek and accept the love and support of others. Based on that definition, I am honored to be a trailblazer right now, and I am so thankful for this award, and I'm thankful to all of you for going on this journey with me.
The 2020 Distinguished Alumna for Higher Education Administration is Dr. Sissy Petty. Sissy followed her older sister Mary to FSU with intentions of heading to law school. She earned a bachelor's degree in criminology while planning to be the first female lawyer in the family. But through her campus experiences and the guidance of student affairs professionals along the way, she found her true calling, earning both her master's and PhD in higher education.
That I'm sure my sister did not like that I followed her to college, um, and she probably didn't like that I also joined the same sorority. I don't. I think it's because she knew how to rush me, and so I missed out on the other 27 because she knew me so well. I was surrounded by people who really cared deeply for my success and well-being. Just so blessed about the people that I encountered, from Bobby Leach to Nancy Turner to Alicia Crew, who just incredible people.
Today, as the Vice President of Student Affairs and Dean of Students at George Washington University, Sissy has 30 years of executive cabinet level experience in higher education and is a leader in campus crisis management. She attributes her success to being present and authentic and listening to her students.
If I have a gift, I think it's the gift of presence, and I'm not afraid to be vulnerable with students. And so I think in some ways that authenticity has helped me build relationships of trust. Um, they can read all of my moods. So happy, sad, glad, and mad, as any good counselor will tell you, they're all obvious. And I'm also a big believer of owning everything. So if I spill an emotional wake over, you can imagine that equally there'll be an apology and so I think being authentic brings students closer to you than letting them see you in real ways. And then listening takes the fever out. So I work really hard at letting them spew out whatever is coming, whatever is at the heart of it. Until we get to it, we can't start turning it into something meaningful.
Her ability to be present, to listen and understand the challenges her students face, prepares her for the quick transitions necessary for dealing with everything from student celebrations to students in crisis.
This pandemic makes you pivot on a dime. I think student affairs professionals are geared for that kind of work, because I could be talking to a student about them winning a student election, and in 6 hours I could be in a residence hall because a student has committed suicide. And both of those things are emotionally distinct and require a lot of empathy, and one joy, one sadness. And I mean, I think that, in terms of our field, that sometimes those things get overlooked. What I love about student affairs is that we have capacity to shape lives by bringing our authentic selves to work every day.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, we proudly present Distinguished Alumna for Higher Education Administration, Dr. Sissy Petty.
Thank you, Dean Andrew, for that gracious introduction. Standing at this podium and accepting this accolade brings my FSU experience full circle. Most of my formation as a person of faith and scholarship and service came from my relationships that first began in Kellum Hall and later in the Alpha Xi Delta House on Park Avenue. When I think about these moments, I'm immediately back at the FSU swimming pool lifeguarding and worrying about getting to class on time. I was a lifeguard through my undergraduate, master's, and later my PhD work. And yes, Alicia Crew, I was likely the oldest lifeguard that you had at 25. I learned so many lessons watching Alicia manage a large enterprise. She was firm, she had a keen eye for detail, and funny. We admired her, and we wanted her to like us. But most of all, we watched how she treated others. I also learned a great deal from her chief custodial worker, Junius Wilson. He taught me about what commitment goals cost to a person. He worked long and hard. He put all 5 of his children through college, and he was so very proud of them. We talked about race in America. Although small in stature, he had a huge heart that he shared daily with me. When folks ask me who the smartest person I know, I often say Junius Wilson. Talks with him as an undergraduate, master's, and PhD changed my career goals from law to my vocation, higher education, and shaping young adult lives. He did that for me. I had the pleasure of knowing Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Bobby Leach, as a student leader, Dr. Nancy Turner as a staunch, loving student advocate, Dr. Mary Coburn as my advisor during an internship, and later as a NASPA colleague and friend. Phil Barco and Sally Collins were constants during my years as an SGA senator and Panhellenic representative. I remember Phil asking me about my plans after graduating. I told him I was thinking of law school, and he said, "You would be great in this field." I honestly looked right at him and said, "You have a job?" He never made it look like work. He made it look like love and service. I'm grateful that during my time in college, there was not a thing called Snapchat, Instagram, or TikTok. I'm sure that we drove Sally and Phil crazy. That said, all of the people that I've mentioned above helped our community through the tragedy and the loss of friends at the Chi Omega House so many years ago. Collectively during that time, we learned about compassion and being men and women with and for others during those dark days. My College of Education professors were life changers as well. First, the unforgettable Dr. Melvine Hardy. I'm not kidding, just typing her name still makes me nervous. I could see her handwriting in red, a note that said, "Sissy, read this in a quiet place." Doctors Fancy Funk and Dr. Marion Neal are like family to me. We have stayed in continuous touch throughout the many years. I can still hear Fancy in a big voice shout out, "Teacher education is everybody's business." And Marion in a bit softer tone, "Sissy, just follow your heart." Every serious decision I've made, from love to money, i.e. a new job, they have been influential. I would not be standing here today without their unconditional support. Again, they gifted me with their humor, their wisdom, their strength of character, and their faith in God. Fancy collaborated on this nomination with many top names in student affairs and higher education. President Lowry White, former President Kevin William Wilds, former student and now student affairs professional Adam Kassler, former Vice President of Enrollment Terry Cowdrey, former Vice President of Enrollment Roberta Caskell, former President Francis Lucas, Vice President for Student Affairs Kent Porterfield, President Cheryl Lovell, President Les Cook, Vice President of Student Affairs Pat Whiteley, former student and now essay professional Danny Weaver. None of this would have happened for me if it had not been amazing special assistants in my life either. Elaine White from St. Lawrence University, Audrey Jones, Loyola University, New Orleans, and Jay Jones at the George Washington University today. In my career, I've been blessed with receiving accolades that come to me but also belong to countless faculty, staff, and student leaders. I will say this, there are 3 awards that I have received in my life that define my professional attachment to our field. Of course, the NASPA Pillar of the Profession, the Jesuits Outstanding Leadership Award, and now the Florida State University Distinguished Alumni Award. The awards matter little, but the relationships made in these 3 arenas are all that matters. Finally, to my sister, Mary Elizabeth Petty, FSU class of 1976, I apologize for following you to the same university and then joining the same sorority. That could not have been easy. And now to my fiance and my great love, Lori Braden. It is a crying shame that I fell in love with a University of Florida 2-time Gator. That said, I never imagined having to have a house divided, but here we go. Finally, to my friends and family, I've been blessed beyond measure, and I'm grateful for your presence today, and I thank you very much.
The 2020 Distinguished Alumnus for K-12 Education is Bay County Superintendent William Husfelt III. Bill Husfelt and his family moved to Panama City at the age of 7, where he has lived the majority of his life. He was influenced from an early age by teachers and coaches.
My experiences in junior high and high school were impacted heavily by my teachers and coaches. Those individuals that were in my life, I mean, I could name them, and I get goosebumps just talking about them, the impact they had on me. And they weren't Florida State graduates per se. They were just good people. I did not have a father in my life. I was the oldest of 3 boys. And so I needed that void filled. I needed guidance and nurturing and leadership and mentoring. And I got all that at Jenks Junior High and Bay High School here in Panama City.
Bill earned a bachelor's in education with a minor in criminology at FSU and then went back home to teach in Bay County. He considered pursuing his interest in law enforcement, but chose ultimately to stick with a safer career in education. He'd earned his master's in educational leadership from FSU Panama City in 1991.
One time I considered going into the FBI. In fact, in the early 90s, I had an appointment in Atlanta to go for an interview with the FBI. And I made a personal decision because my wife's from this area and she was not excited about leaving. And the Florida State University campus here in Panama City just started really blossoming. And so I decided to get my master's degree in leadership education. And I was successful in getting my master's degree, and be careful what you apply for. The first administrative job I applied for, I got. And the rest is history. So I took off, became an assistant principal, then a principal, and now I've been superintendent for 12 years. So either I'm thankful for FSU or people blame FSU for it, one way or the other. I don't know how you want to look at it.
During his tenure as superintendent, Bill has seen a number of challenges, from budget cuts during the Great Recession to a shooting at a school board meeting.
And then the school board shooting just happened out of the blue. You don't think about those things or plan those things. I tell everybody today, I'm probably the most blessed person I know, that I shouldn't be alive. I have a picture of the bullet that was shot at me where it stopped in the notebook. And so I tell people, paper stopped the bullet that was meant for me. Because of that, I believe I have even more to give back and to share and to make sure others understand that in life you have to do certain things and you only have a limited amount of time.
As if surviving a shooting were not enough excitement, Bill in Bay County would next be faced with the devastation of a Category 5 hurricane.
And in our district, we've been able to do some things the last 12 years I'm extremely thankful for. As I said, we went through the recession, the shooting, the hurricane recovery. A Category 5, who ever think you'd survive a Category 5 hurricane? You didn't even talk about Category 5 hurricanes a few years ago. When we came out after the hurricane, we came outside and we looked around and we thought a tornado had hit our area. Well, then we realized the tornado was 40 miles wide. And so the devastation was all over our county. And within 30 days, though, we had so many people working so hard that we were able to open schools back up.
But even with all of his professional accomplishments, Bill says he is most proud of having been around for his daughters.
The most fun thing that I've been blessed with in my career all these years, and very few people get to do this. I was the high school principal for all three of my daughters, 9th through 12th grade. The biggest thing that they liked about that was that I had my own bathroom. And so I'd be in meetings in my office, and my three daughters at various ages would come through anytime they wanted with their friends to go use the bathroom. It didn't make any difference who was in my office. They just went on into the bathroom. Girls and bathrooms, that's another whole thing.
Bill is now in his 13th year as superintendent of Bay County and still planning for the future.
We're focusing on, I've got three main things right now. We're focused on the recovery from the hurricane still, which is huge. It is financially a huge burden. We're dealing with recovery from the pandemic and preparing for the budget cuts we think are looming in the future. And so those things are paramount to what we're preparing for right now.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, we present the Distinguished Alumnus for K-12 Education, Bill Husfelt.
Thank you for taking your valuable time during this pandemic to continue the tradition of recognizing distinguished alumni from the College of Education at Florida State University. As a proud Seminole, I consider myself blessed and honored even to be considered for this award, let alone be recognized as the distinguished alumni. Thank you for the committee members and all the others involved in this recognition, and thank you for FSU for naming me the 2020 recipient of the K-12 Administration Award. As a lifetime educator, I believe firmly in the power of public education and the opportunities that it provides. I grew up in a subsidized housing project and was raised by a single mom who did the very best she could do with 3 active boys. I'm a proud product of Bay District Schools, and it's the very district where I've been privileged to serve as an educator, and I'm definitely the man I am today because of the time, love, and passion poured into me by countless educators and coaches throughout my years. That firm foundation served me well as I continue my studies, both undergraduate and graduate at Florida State University. My professors and other leaders at the College of Education inspired me to become the best educator I could be and to eventually move into a leadership role to help serve my community. I feel as though I should be recognized with each one of them who helped me along the way, as opposed to being recognized myself. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank my wife, Teresa, who's been married to me for 38 years, and my daughters, their spouses, and my grandchildren. Stephanie, Allison, and Anna are each graduates of Florida State University, with the 4 of us totaling 7 degrees. Their support has been steadfast throughout my career, and they continually inspire me to serve others. I'd also like to thank my very good friend, Dr. Stephanie Gall, and her husband, Dan, for nominating me for this award. Stephanie's countless years of service, guidance, and mentorship has been a shining example of education to all of us, and even in her retirement, I'm honored to call her my friend and mentor. I'd also like to thank Dr. Randy Hanna and the administrators of the Panama City campus of Florida State University. Thanks to their hard work, we're able to offer students an incredible education locally, and that's a wonderful option for those who cannot or do not want to move to Tallahassee. I'm so proud to be a part of a partnership that cares so deeply for all of our students. These are challenging times for educators, and yet I know that we will continue to step up to do what's right for our students because that's who we are and that's what we do. Serving as the superintendent for Bay County for the past 12 years has truly been one of the greatest honors of my career, and I'm so proud to receive this award and to help spread the word about the wonderful opportunities which await graduates of Florida State University College of Education. Thank you very much for this honor.
The 2020 Distinguished Alumnus for Post-Secondary Systems, University Setting, is Dr. Paul Peterson. Growing up a football fan in Nebraska, Paul thought of becoming a sports broadcaster when an early experience with live radio inspired him to pursue his dreams.
Bob Costas was someone who was younger at that time when I was growing up, and I actually listened, I would always listen to the radio. That was my thing, listening to the radio. And I think it was Monday Night Football, and he did maybe the halftime show or something like that. And it was call in and for a chance to win, at this point, a television, and early 80s or whenever it was. I called in and they connected with, and I won a television from Bob Costas. So I still remember getting that.
Paul earned a bachelor's in business administration from Palm Beach Atlantic University and a master's in business communication and public relations from Emerson College. In Boston, he briefly pursued a career in the competitive sports broadcasting market, but discovered that it was the wrong fit. He earned a master's in sport history from the University of Central Florida and took the advice of a faculty member who thought he would make a great professor.
FSU was one of the few programs at the time to offer a doctorate in sport management. And so I thought this would be great because FSU's great and something that I never thought was a possibility. So it was basically one of the best decisions of my life that I've made in terms of I took a leap of faith and at that time, maybe we had 2 kids at the time and applied to the doctoral program.
After earning his PhD from FSU in 2000, Paul first worked at Bowling Green University, then started a new program at Palm Beach Atlantic, before arriving at Indiana University, where he has been for the past 15 years. Paul has over 400 publications, including 15 books. He is a research fellow in the North American Society of Sport Management. He serves as editor of the International Journal of Sport Communication, associate editor of the Global Sport Business Journal, and is a member of the editorial review board for another dozen journals. But even more impressive than his academic record is the reputation he has built among his colleagues. 8 of Paul's fellow FSU alumni, who now serve as sport management professors across the country, lent their voices in support of Paul's nomination. Dr. John Vincent states of Paul, "He is a positive role model and a valued colleague and friend." Paul is quick to recognize the value of the FSU alumni community and his experiences at Florida State.
The alumni base and the network and the college of education and sport management program for me have really helped me become who I am.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, we present the Distinguished Alumnus for Post-Secondary Systems, University Setting, Dr. Paul Peterson.
Thank you very much. This is a huge honor. And thank you, Dean Andrew. Thank you, Distinguished Alumni Awards Selection Committee, and Kevin and Ashley. This is truly one of the major highlights of my career, and such an honor. Hopefully you can see it. I'm going to put it over here if that's okay. Hopefully you can see that. I'm honored, as I mentioned, with the award, and consider myself a very fortunate guy, starting with getting accepted into the Florida State Sport Management Doctoral Program, and then working my way through the classes, the projects and presentations, dissertation, which then set me on my way. The acceptance into the program and guidance along the way came from wonderful faculty, mentors, lifelong friends, become lifelong friends, and there at FSU in the College of Education and the Sport Management program in particular. But Dr. Johnson was my chair, and Drs. Clement and Pitts and Jackson and others, to also the doctoral peers that I had there. They've become lifelong friends and collaborators. The friends around the time that I matriculated through the College of Education and the FSU doctoral program, they've gone on to have a major impact, make a major impact on the world and in sport management in particular. The impacts range from the practical side in terms of such as I remember one of my peers while I was going through the doctoral program, she's gone on to become the first African American female athletic director in a Power 5 university, which is an amazing accomplishment. It's great. And to the academic, a lot have made a major impact on the academic side, holding leadership positions, starting conferences, starting academic associations even, journals, mentoring thousands of sport industry professionals. I'm humbled by their nomination of my peers. Dr. Vincent, deserving in his own right, just a wonderful colleague and scholar, friend, and Dr. Schneider, and Wisnat, Happenstall, Todd, Jisha, Smucker, other letter writers, Drs. Williams and Guerin, and but so the FSU doctoral alumni base, they've had a huge impact on our sport management field, and the people nominating me and supporting my nomination are deserving themselves, but I appreciate the nomination and the awards committee's selection of me. Thank you to my former FSU professors, I've mentioned several, and then to the current faculty who are wonderful, Drs. James and Kim and Newman, Rodberg, and many others, and I'm sorry I'm leaving several out, and that's not fair. But and to the administration, including our own Dean Andrew, what a wonderful career and impact he's had. One of maybe only a couple sport management doctoral graduates to hold such a esteemed position and had such a leadership role. Thank you to my around 3,500 students I've had over my career, including 24 doctoral advisees who've gone on themselves to do great things, and another 25 or so doctoral graduates who I've been a committee member with. Most of all, thanks to Jen. Those of you who know Jen, none of this would have happened without Jennifer, who supported my education, raised our children, raised our family, sacrificed many evenings and proofread materials, critiqued studies, and challenged my assumptions on things, and provided encouragement, hosted students, and I could go on and on. And again, those who know Jennifer, none of this is surprising, but I'm getting this award, and I am truly humbled and appreciative in receiving it. But there's no chance this happens without Jennifer, so I accept it on her behalf. So, but thank you very much, and I really do appreciate this nomination and selection.
The 2020 Distinguished Alumnus for Physical Education is Dr. Ellington Darden. Growing up in Conroe, Texas, Ellington Darden dreamt of being a champion football player and excelling as an all-around athlete. As a quarterback on his junior high team, he knew his slight frame would put him at a competitive disadvantage until a new coach introduced the notion of strength training to improve his play.
I got started at an early age in strength training. And boy, did it help me. I was probably the only athlete, or one of the 2 or 3, that continued to do that right through the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. So I went from 125 pounds to 190 pounds when I was a senior in high school.
Ellington's success on the field translated into an interest in exercise science in the classroom. He'd go on to pursue recreation and exercise science for bachelor's and master's degrees from Baylor University before finding his way to Florida State. At FSU, a chance class outside of his major program led to an interest in incorporating nutrition principles into physical fitness.
So I was sort of the first guinea pig to go into the nutrition area. And the reason I did is because the whole physical fitness muscle building area at that time was full of quackery.
Ellington was learning how to bring nutritional science to physical education training and how to apply it in the real world. While working on his dissertation, Ellington asked his high school English teacher to help him with editing. The advice he received would change the course of his career.
Miss Moon, she was 78 or 9 then, been retired, and a wonderful teacher. Well, she went through my manuscript, and I remember when I visited with her at her home, the first thing she asked me, and it was, honey, do you want to write for PhD or PAY? And that sort of struck me as an interesting question. And I said, well, I'd like to write for both. And she said, well, you know how to write for PhD. But she said, judging from what you've written for PhD, it's not going to cut it in PAY.
After graduation, Ellington took a job with Nautilus Home Fitness, where he would spend 20 years as a director of research and launch a career that would see him publish 75 books with over 7 million copies in print. Ellington applies the same ethic to his career as to his emphasis on physical fitness. Anything worth doing takes time and effort.
As you know, anything that's meaningful in the College of Education, it doesn't come quick and easy. It's going to take some hard work and consistent work. And you gotta be around the right people to keep you from failing, or at least when you fail, you don't continue to fail. You got to get up and do the right thing the second or third time.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, I present Distinguished Alumnus, Dr. Ellington Darden.
I'm Ellington Darden. I want to thank my nominators, Floyd Scholes and Ivan Lindsay, and the people who stood up for me, Mel Wright, Max Maderi, Emilia Rapport, Bruce Robinson, my old college roommate, Jim Flanagan, and Janice Todd from the University of Texas. I'd also like to thank my wife, Janine, and our 4 children, Amy, Sarah, Lara, and Tyler. Special appreciation goes to Damon Andrew, the Dean of the College of Education, and Ashley Milton, the Program Coordinator. It was great to go to Florida State University in the late 1960s and early 1970s. What a special time in my life. And there were 4 professors that really stood out. First was Francis Hall in research and motor learning. Then there was Peter Everett in test and measurements, Ken Brewer in statistics, and Harold Schindel in food and nutrition. I'm very pleased to receive this College of Education Alumni Award. In closing, I firmly believe you'll live longer with muscles stronger. Live longer, muscles stronger. Remember that, and thank you.
The 2020 Distinguished Educator is Erica Lowry. Early on, Erica developed an interest in politics and her community, but growing up in South Florida, she felt a bit removed from the seat of government in Tallahassee. Choosing to attend Florida State was motivated as much by her desire for an education as for an interest in life in Florida's capital.
I always thought politics was a possibility. I really did not know what I wanted to do. Being president of the country was always a possibility and still is. But I knew that being in the Capitol was definitely a start to at least seeing how the government functioned. Because growing up in South Florida, what was that, 7 to 8 hours, depending on who drove. And it would just provide a lot of good opportunities.
Open to learning how she could make a difference, Erica met with a sophomore guidance counselor who suggested that education would match her love of collaboration with an interest in politics and geography. Then on her first day in the classroom, Erica saw the opportunity her counselor had described.
I clearly remember my first day in front of a classroom for my pre-service internship. It was at Griffin Middle School in Tallahassee. And I remember standing in front of the class and having all those students look at me and me thinking, what in the world was I thinking? Thinking I could do this. They are staring at me and I'm supposed to enlighten them. No, and then we got into the lesson and we started talking and discussing and asking questions, and I was hooked, and I knew that I had chosen the right major. Thank you, counselor, for having me do this. And that was the start of my long career in education.
Post-graduation, Erica taught in Central Florida for 5 years before she and her husband, fellow College of Education alum Chip Lowry, pursued job opportunities in North Texas. Erica would spend 12 more years in the classroom before the Independent School District of Denton recognized her leadership skills and promoted her to Secondary Social Studies Coordinator in 2015. Over the course of a 23-year career, she's developed a philosophy of teaching rooted in building relationships with her students.
What I have learned about teaching that surprised me was that knowing the content was important, but building relationships with the child is what supports learning to occur. And that has molded and assisted my philosophy of teaching taking place, that the student is the main character in their movie called life, and myself as the teacher and the content are just the supporting cast that allows them to achieve their goals.
In her nomination materials, nominator Kathy Ulick describes Erica as someone who, quote, sees the global picture and is able to get things done, unquote. Erica applies that global perspective to organizations such as the National Social Studies Supervisors Association, which she currently serves as president, but she's never lost focus on her local community.
Being active in my community is, I believe, hand in hand with being a teacher. The political process, politics, lobbying have always been interests of mine, and I really was always going to be involved in my community. I mean, you have a bunch of students there, you meet their parents, you work in a small enough community. I think even in a large district or community, you just get to know them. And especially if you live there also, as my husband and I have always lived in the school districts that we've worked.
On behalf of Dean Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, I present Distinguished Educator Erica Lowry.
Thank you, Dean Andrew and the Distinguished Alumni Awards Selection Committee and Florida State University. I am honored and excited to be nominated and then chosen to receive the Distinguished Alumni Association recognition for the College of Education. My career in education has spanned almost 4 decades, and it started with the foundation the College of Education provided me through the coursework and through the pre-service opportunities. I remember attending this ceremony in 1995. I think it was a breakfast, and I attended as the president of Florida Future Educators of America, and I attended with my then boyfriend, now husband, Chip Lowry, who was receiving honors as top student in his physical education class. Look, there we are. That's me. That's him, 1995 fall, attending the alumni breakfast. Dean Andrew and the committee, thank you again for recognizing the work and longevity of my career. We as teachers, we don't teach for the awards and accolades, but receiving this has truly made this educator feel special. Thank you.
The 2020 Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Dr. Shirley Green Reese. Dr. Green Reese grew up one of 7 children in the small town of Americus, Georgia in the 1960s. Her parents taught her and her siblings about the importance of family and education, and that her opportunities were not limited due to her gender or the color of her skin.
We all got degrees in the 60s, which was very interesting, because I think we were the only family during that time that received, all the degrees and kids going to school. We had all the things necessary in terms of living, but not the best, but we made the difference because there was no jobs for Blacks. It was no jobs, it was nothing, no recreational facilities, nothing for young kids to do. So we pretty much worked and played in the neighborhood outside.
Then in 1963, at the age of 13, Shirley became involved in the civil rights movement when she was among 15 young women unlawfully detained for over 2 months in a Leesburg, Georgia stockade after a peaceful protest at her local movie theater. The young women were held in a single cell lacking proper plumbing, running water, bedding, or sanitary supplies. Their families did not know where they had been taken, and the girls never faced formal charges. Danny Lyon, photographer for the civil rights organization the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, snuck his camera into the stockade and took pictures of the young women, popularizing the story of the Leesburg Stockade Girls.
So when I moved back home, I said, I got to get this story straight. So what I did, I found Danny Lyon, the man who found us. After years, I made a call to him, and I said, Danny, this is Dr. Reese. He said, Dr. Reese. I said, yes, this is the girl in the stockade. He said, oh my God, I would have never known who you all were. I was just taking pictures, being beat up, put in jail and everything. And I said, I'm the first one that saw you sneak around the building. I was looking at the window, the bars. And I said, who are you? He said, shh. I said, what's your name? As a young girl, being in that place, didn't see anybody for months and days. He said, I'm Danny Lyon, be quiet. Shh, I want to take our pictures. I said, take my picture.
Following that formative experience, Shirley wanted to stay close to home and family. She'd earned her bachelor's at Savannah State, but shortly after graduating, faced multiple family tragedies after the loss of her twin daughters and then her husband. Shirley stayed close to her family support system to receive her master's from Georgia State, and then took a job at Albany State before attending FSU to earn her PhD.
As a matter of fact, I was the only African American in the class during that time. When I attended, I was the only one, and I had Don Jeffrey. All of my classmates were white, and we bonded, we partied a little bit together at Studebakers. They had Studebakers there during that time, and do you remember that? So my professor would go too, after class, and we would, bring food and things like that. So I was the only African American there, and I felt very special because we were just like sisters and brothers. We had no hardship, and studying. We studied together, we plotted together. So when we got ready to do our report in class, I always say, well, since I'm Black, I'll go first. And the reason that I wanted to go first is because it's harder on you when you present later on during the class. So Don said, I picked up on that, Shirley. I picked up on that. You want to get yours over with. And that's why Dr. Johnson got so hard on us. So, we always played that kind of game.
After her first jobs in academia, Shirley knew that she once more wanted to be close to home when an opportunity to return to Albany State as the first female athletic director in the state of Georgia.
I got a call from Dr. Billy Blight from Albany State. And I told him, I said, I want to come back home. He said, okay. He brought me back home to Albany State a second time. That's the second time. So when I came back, I was the associate director of athletics over women's sports. And I did that job tremendously. And then he fired the AD. in 1993. I said, oh my God. And then I was appointed for the NCAA Management Council in 1993 by a colleague from Fort Valley State University, the men's head football coach, Doug Porter. He was on the council during the time, and he called me and told me that he had recommended me because they wanted a female on the NCAA Management Council. Oh my God, that was the best thing could have happened to me. So Dr. Black appointed me athletic director. And I was the only female in the athletic department, and I called ATLL. Okay? I caught everything. I was the only female in health and physical education, and I was the only female that was making roles in athletics.
After retiring from academia, Shirley continued to serve the community she loves so well. In Americus, Georgia, the same city where she was once arrested for watching a movie, Dr. Green Reese joined the city council and served as president of the Boys and Girls Club Sumter County chapter. In 2015, she reunited with the Leesburg Stockade Girls to tell their story publicly for the first time. On behalf of Dean Damon Andrew and the College of Education alumni community, we present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Dr. Shirley Green Reese.
Thank you, Dean Andrew, for the kind introduction. I am excited and grateful to be selected as one of the College of Education's 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award recipient at the Florida State University. It means a lot to be recognized and honored by a university that has given me a solid educational foundation and the opportunity to achieve several local, state, and national honors, both in higher education and throughout the community. For that, I am appreciative. I would like to thank Dean Damon Andrews and the College of Education's 2020 Distinguished Alumni Committee for selecting me to receive this prestigious award. I would also like to thank Yolanda Amadeo for nominating me to receive this award, and Ashley Milton for assisting me with the planning process for this special occasion. My experiences at Florida State University shaped, molded, and provided me with a firm foundation which motivated me to excel as a determined doctoral graduate student in the College of Education. Florida State University was the perfect place for me in 1982. I was surrounded by wonderful and supported mentors and excellent professors. One of my proudest accomplishments in life was earning my PhD from Florida State University. When I applied to attend Florida State and to study in the College of Education, I wanted to further enhance my personal and professional goals. The importance of a good education can never be overstated. Florida State University provided me with an opportunity for a new start, new possibilities, and new discoveries. Florida State's educational programs and professors are top rated throughout the nation. I am fortunate to have worked with several national ranking professors on several important research projects that positively impacted the global community. The College of Education prepared me to reach for the stars. I have been significantly involved as a university professor and collegiate athletic director, and have received many commendations, awards, and honors for the educational and community services from several state, national executive boards, and committees. In closing, I would like to dedicate this honor and award to my 99-year-old mother and family, who has been very supportive by my side and has celebrated all of my successes. She died 2 weeks before I received this award notification. I am equally blessed to have had the opportunity to realize my dream and not only to attend a university of academic excellence, but to graduate in 2 years with the Doctorate of Philosophy degree from a great university. My overall experiences throughout the years in the College of Education and at Florida State University have been very interesting, exciting, and very rewarding. Again, I extend my sincere gratitude to the 2020 Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee, the College of Education, and my alma mater, Florida State University.